Welcome everybody. I am working on a prototype long reach router plane essentially. I have some ideas for some future projects, and having a router plane that I can get deep I think will really help execute my ideas. And what I am doing here is I'm starting with a piece of red oak, and red oak isn't necessarily the best for plane making, but this is a prototype. I didn't want to use up any of the beech or the birch that I have in my collection. I figure red oak is going to work just perfect in this instance. So I am getting the bottom, and then I'm getting one of the sides flat and true and 90 degrees to one another. And those are going to be my reference surfaces for all of my subsequent operations. And I am going to, now I've moved over to the hollow chisel mortiser, and I am cutting in the bed. And certainly you do not need a hollow chisel mortiser to make hand planes, but I have it and I want to play with this new toy. And one of the things I needed to do is it needed a little bit of a modification. It cuts at 90 degrees. The bed is not going to be at 90 degrees, so I've gone ahead and made a little bit of an angled platform there out of just some scrap, and it puts everything at the correct bed angle. And I think this got cut in somewhere around like 75 or 80 degrees. A little steep for a router, but I am copying another router that I have in my collection, and at that angle it works, so I figured I'd just give it a shot as well. And after using the mortiser, it's in, that bed is in pretty good shape. It just needs a little bit of cleanup with some floats just to get everything right to the lines. I tend to stay just a little bit shy of the line so I can sneak up on them, and that works out well for me. And now I'm going to go ahead and drill out for a threaded insert. I have seen this on some French router planes, and I wanted to experiment with it and see how well it worked. And I'm doing this now because it's easier to do all these drilling operations when the plane body is still a big rectangle. And so now I'm on to shaping it. I'm working here at the bandsaw, and I'm going to just take a bulk of the material away with the bandsaw. Then I'm going to do some shaping with some hand tools to get it the rest of the way. I'm starting it out with kind of like an elongated football shape, and by the end of the video I end up actually modifying that further just to make the plane more comfortable in the hands. I really did like that football shape though, so I'm going to revisit that on some future planes. So after the bandsaw, I'm back over at the bench and just using some hand planes to get everything nice and smooth and down to the lines. And I have kind of switched over to a smaller plane because what I'm trying to do is ride a curve instead of planing the sides perfectly flat. So there needs to be a bit of a curve to them. I find that's a little bit easier with the smaller plane. And now it's on to the draw knife, and I need draw knife practice. So I figured this was a good opportunity to do that. I have a series of layout lines that I've drawn on with pencil, just both on the top and on the side, and I'm just working at just connecting those two sets of lines. And once I've gotten pretty close to my lines with the draw knife, I can switch over to the spoke shave and take it right to that pencil line. I'm just trying to make sure everything is nice and smooth. There's no bumps, nothing like that. And then once I've done one side, I can kind of flip it over and finish the other side, and then I can connect the middle, and that allows me to make sure I'm pretty much always kind of cutting downhill and I don't run into any issues with tear out. And now that I have all of those angles kind of cut in the way I wanted, I can come back with a spoke shave and do some rounding over, and I'm just basically trying to get it to just where it feels nice, where it looks nice. I got a couple of lines I'm trying not to cross, but since this is mostly visual, you know, if you go over a little bit, it's not a big deal. And once I have gotten, you know, established all of those curves with the spoke shave, I'm coming in with a card scraper and removing the last little bits of all of those facets, so it's a nice fair curve across the entire surface. And I still had the bandsaw marks on the end grain to take care of, and I'm just using some files and a little bit of fine grit sandpaper to take care of all that, get it all nice and smooth. And you know, you always got to mark your work. And now it's on to finish, and I am, what I'm actually doing here is doing a little bit of grain filling, so the finish and the sawdust will kind of mix together, fill up all those pores, leave a nice smooth finish behind. The last step really is, not the last step, excuse me. Now I'm onto the blade, and you know, I'm starting with some, you know, the steel here, and it was a little too big for what my purposes are, so I'm going ahead and cut that down. And it would have been a lot easier to start with a smaller blank, but this is what I had, and so that's what we're using. And now it's on to the heat treat, and I was trying to do this in about 0-degree weather, which made it super fun, trying to get it heated evenly, and then, you know, quenched appropriately. But I did get it hard, and after that I can temper it and draw it down and get it to kind of the correct hardness that I need for making this blade. And now I'm just trying to get it mostly cleaned up, and I'm going ahead and I'm putting a camber in the blade. One of the ideas I have is that I'm kind of like a textured bottom on some of the things where I think I'll need this router plane, because normally you have a flat blade, you want a flat bottom, but I think I kind of want to have a textured bottom, so I'm making my blade cambered. And so after it is all cleaned up, I've gone over to the diamond plate just to get that back nice and flat so I can get it sharp, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go ahead and sharpen it up. Now after I got it sharp, I'm just over at the strop, and I am going to take off that burr and get it all kind of nice and polished. And I still need a set screw or a thumb screw to hold the blade in place, and I didn't have anything that was going to quite work for my purposes, so I'm making my own out of some round stock and a bolt. And I've gone ahead and just I'm going to go ahead and drill and tap that round stock. So I'm just doing this over on the little, you know, micro lathe. And you can kind of see what that's going to look like. And then I'm using some Loctite just to keep it held permanently. And now it's back into the lathe. And this is mostly just decorative work at this point. I am just trying to make it look nice. That's about it. So there's no real rhyme or reason or specific measurements that I'm shooting for here. It's just, you know, get this cleaned up and to where it looks good. And some decorative chamfers, just so it feels nice when you go to use it. And then I also needed to put some knurling on there, just make it easier to grip. And I didn't really like how the shiny look really for this, so I've gone ahead and I'm just going to blacken it up. And now I can put that threaded insert in. And I typically start these over in the drill press, just get them started so they're lined up at a true 90, and then I drive them the rest of the way home with the impact driver. And then the that set screw we made goes in, and then now it is time to put in the blade. And it felt like it was going to hold it pretty well. I still need to do some experimenting and tweaking here, but it was working somewhat okay. And now I need to test it out, so go ahead and quickly carve up something to do the test with. And it is drawing shavings. I need to mess with the camber. There's too much camber on it right now, so it's just kind of contacting there right at the end, and you can see it's just pulling up these teeny tiny shavings, so I need less camber. Overall, it's working pretty well. Still some tweaking, but I am pretty happy with the way it turned out. There's improvements to be made, tweaks here and there, but overall, pretty happy. I think it turned out, functions well. I think it looks pretty good, and it feels nice in the hands. So what more can you ask for? So at any rate, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.